Greetings, people of Earth. Welcome back. My name is Jax, and today we are talking about adaptability. So, it's kind of ironic because I had meant to talk about adaptability for a while. The script and my sort of notes, my loose notes, have been written on this topic for a few days now. But today, I woke up feeling pretty bad headache. I'd been around a few people who'd been sick in the last week or so. So I was feeling a little bit rough. And then I went to the gym and did a very light workout, and I pulled a bit of my hamstring. So I was like, oh man, this day is not going good. So then I went into the sauna and I sat in the sauna for 45 minutes, and I was chatting with these really nice girls, and we were talking about like life and, all of this kind of stuff. And the conversation got away from me. I was in there first and then they came in. So I was in there for like 45 minutes. They were in there for like, I don't know, 20 minutes or something. But by the end of it, I was feeling pretty sick. And I got out of the sauna, and then I quickly realized that I had heat stroke, and like a really intense form of heat stroke. I couldn't hear anything. Like I literally went deaf. My heart was just pounding and I couldn't see straight. I couldn't walk straight. It was really bad. So I like ran back to the change room, and like it took me a good 45 minutes to just even recover enough to be able to like get dressed and change and drive home and all of that. Anyway, so I thought this little tangent has a lot to do with adaptability, because it was sort of me actively adapting to each thing as the day unfolded. So I woke up and I was like, well, should I go to the gym? Yeah, I'll go to the gym, but I'll just do a light workout. And then I hurt myself in my workout. And then I was like, okay, well, maybe the sauna will help me, de-stress and release some of the tension in my joints and my muscles. And it just like kept spiraling out of control. But I kept rolling with the punches. I was really proud of myself for just sort of dealing with it and being able to feel okay. I had a bunch of things I was supposed to do today, but in all honesty, like my brain is really fried, and I'm just, so like apologies for my appearance and everything. But the reason I bring all of that up is because adaptability is one of the things that makes human beings so prolific and successful on this planet. Like currently outside right now, it is minus 18, and yet an organism that was evolved and designed to live in the plains of Africa is living in this snowy, frozen wasteland. I'm kidding, it's not a wasteland, but you know what I mean. And we humans are so prolific at adapting that we have been able to adapt and live off of the planet. There are people orbiting us right now on the International Space Station, and that is very impressive. That is quite extraordinary that we can design things that allow us to adapt to different circumstances. There's a lot of research that has said our ability to cook food may have helped us develop a more sophisticated frontal lobe and increase our intelligence. And so that's like the human being's greatest advantage, is that we can adapt to almost any situation. We can find our niche. We can find exactly where we're supposed to be and what we're supposed to be doing. And we can go with the punches. We can change on the fly and adapt and learn new things. And so this superpower, I don't think, is utilized by a whole lot of people in our society, in our way of life. I feel like when you get into a very comfortable, very sort of a way of life that is very suited to the way you want to live, it can be hard to sort of learn to adapt again. You kind of lose that ability, and you're just like, oh, when something doesn't go right, you're just unable to adapt, and it ruins your whole day, and then that's over. And there's a place for that. But I think human ability to adapt is a truly remarkable and kind of amazing thing when you think of it. The ability to change what you're doing and realize, like, this is not working for me. I've got to switch it up. I've got to do something different. And that ability is so underrated. And I think not a lot of us give ourselves credit for when we do it. And a lot of us don't give us the opportunity to adapt when we need to. I think a lot of us are stuck in bad patterns or doing something a specific way because that's how we always did it, or, that's what my grandpa did it. That's how, the world is supposed to work. You're supposed to do this. You're supposed to go through the world in these specific steps or do this specific thing. But you really have to figure out what works for you. I'm somebody who can't eat breakfast. Breakfast makes me sick. I don't like it. And so as a result, I have learned that if I eat once a day, or if I eat within a very small window, kind of like intermittent fasting, my body really appreciates that. And so that's what I do. And I think as a kid, it's much harder to do this because obviously you have a set schedule and you're beholden to certain things, and you have to listen to your parents and your teachers and your grandparents and whoever. And so you're kind of taught that, like, no, don't adapt, just do what I say. And then as a young adult, your job is to learn to adapt and learn to embrace that and figure out what works for you and what doesn't, because you're told like all of these specific things you're supposed to do your whole life. And then you get to adulthood and it's like, actually, you can do whatever you want. There's really no guiding light. There's no specific path you have to follow. You have to make your own way. And that's why it's called making your own way. And I just think adaptability is so underrated. And coming kind of sort of full circle back, being able to embrace that and figure out what works for you is so powerful. And this comes to the second part of what I want to talk to you about today, which is embracing trying new things, doing things differently, not holding yourself to have to do something a specific way, because that whole idea creates kind of like a dogmatic way of thinking where you're just like, well, I have to do it this way. Like I can't do it a different way. Like I can't bake a cake in a different way, when in fact, there are a million different ways that you could bake a cake. There are a million different ways that you can carry out specific jobs or skills or things you want to do in your life, situations. You can do them in an infinite amount of ways and intricate processes, I guess. Processes, something like that. But I think you have to be open to trying new things, and you have to be open to breaking a plan that you might have made. And this is something that I'm learning to get better at, because I've always been somebody who likes my schedule and I like my plans laid the way they are. But having that ability to say, oh, this isn't going to work. Let's change the plan. Let's switch it up. Let's do something different. And being able to do that is a great strength, and being able to adapt and change on the fly is super good. I'm not saying that not having a plan is the way to go and you should just live by the seat of your pants and, run around the world having no plan and no method of how you're going to do things. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying having that freedom to adapt, to change. Like I said, it's our greatest strength as human beings. We have humans in Antarctica right now on research stations doing science and technology development, and that's amazing. But we've been able to adapt our structures that we live in, our clothing, what we eat, how we get there, our transportation. You can fly down to Antarctica now. Like, it's crazy. And we have become a planet-wide civilization, for better or for worse. I think for better, but it's because of our ability to adapt and survive. And I don't know, like I said before, I feel like in our society now, we are very pigeonholed, and we have this tunnel vision on of, well, it's got to be done this way. It's got to be done. And the biggest innovators in any career or profession, like you look at the top 10 best doctors on the planet, the top 10 movie stars on the planet, the top 10 whatever, they're all people who embrace innovation, and they do the work. They do the research, they put the work in, and they change and they adapt and they alter, and they are able to mold themselves into new things. And just as the human race has become this prolific innovator, and we're the masters of invention. Everything in this shot that you're watching has been invented by somebody, and it was designed and created to form a function or a purpose, and it all does what it's supposed to do almost perfectly. Very few things sort of falter, or obviously stuff has wear and tear, but on the whole, we are able to create what we need and adapt to the situation that it calls for. So whether it is figuring out what you're going to do in a day, or what you're going to do for the rest of your career, or how you're going to manage your relationships, be willing to be open and adapt and to change with the situation and the circumstances. If you are unable to adapt and change, this is going to sound very like red pill, like, huh. But if you are unwilling to adapt and change, there's really only one option for you, and it's not a good one. Like being able to alter yourself and embrace new ideas, new thoughts, new concepts, that is really at the heart of humanity. And I was listening to a podcast recently where this guy said, whatever you think of humans, we are really good at making better stuff. We are really good at looking at a lamp and going, how can I make that more efficient? How can I make the light bulb better? How can I make the power system better? Wait, where does that power come from? It's generated by coal power plants. How can we make that better? Maybe we could do nuclear power plants. Those are way more efficient and they produce way more energy with way less waste. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. And how do we transfer that power? Oh, it's through like pipelines or electrical grids. Well, how can we make that better? And what else are these power grids powering? Oh, they're powering cities. How can we make cities more efficient and better? Oh, well, we can make the food in the cities using hydroponics or aeroponics. And oh my gosh, this is so much better. And we are constantly innovating. We're constantly coming up with new stuff. It's truly amazing to live in this time because we're shown every single day, look at this new science we found. Look at this new technology. Oh my goodness, we're developing, batteries that work 400 times more efficient than the ones that worked last year. And our computers are getting better and our science is getting better. Humans stay basically the same. We are the same moralistic beings. There is a lot of good and a lot of bad. There's betrayal and love and, protecting your family and protecting your country. And, all of that stuff doesn't really change, but the technology and the skills, that stuff changes. And the education that you can have changes, which is basically just adapting. Learning new things is adapting to a situation. So that's kind of what I wanted to leave you. I've just been trying to recuperate. Again, my brain is a bit fried, so I thought, I wanted to talk about adaptability and the ability to change and make yourself better. And I thought, what a great example of a situation where you just kind of have to adapt. And even if it's just sitting in bed and having a cup of tea and reading a book, you got to do what you got to do. And it sounds very cliche, but I really believe that. And I thought, this is sort of the universe saying, this, you needed this day. And to be fair, I did need a day of just breath. So, thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you think about adaptability, growth, change. I'm not saying all adaptations are good. Sometimes we adapt for the worst, but as you know, I'm a big optimist. And sorry, this is the brain fry that I'm talking about. As you know, I'm an optimist, and so I like to focus on the good and the positive and the constructive. So I really do think that a lot of adaptation that we innovate and that we create in this world and that people way smarter than me create is really good for the world. And I am optimistic. I know that there is so much stuff going on in the world and the universe right now, and politics and economy and everything. There's a lot. It's a lot. But I do think the world will get better as long as people continue to adapt and make the world better because of those adaptations. So with that being said, thank you for listening to my brain malfunction. I hope it was coherent. I will look it back and see if it's good enough. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing day, month, week, year, millennia, whatever you're having. I hope it's amazing. And as always, guys, I will talk to you guys tomorrow.